Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone doing? Can everyone hear me? Hopefully, hopefully you can hear me. Sometimes I don't even know anymore. Let's see. I'll wait for the chat. Need to do a little bit of an exhale. I actually want to start this live giving a major shout out to my dog Kukla. Kukla was the best dog. I mean, her and Maya. Maya has passed, but Kukla and Maya were like my best friends. They were there with me through everything. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate. I don't know if anyone has a dog now or an animal now or has, had one that passed away. If you want to put their name in the chat so we can send some love to our animal, to our angels, really. I really see them as angels. Kukla was just a total angel. She was the sweetest. And saying goodbye to her a few days ago was really hard. I'm like still like, I can't, I still can't even talk about her yet without just painful to say goodbye to your best friend. I love her dearly, and I hope, or I know so many people probably out there. Princey, Skipper, Zora. Oh my God, cuties. Oh, so cute. Rusty. Oh my God. Aren't they the best? It's so amazing and wonderful, honestly, how you can have such a deep connection with a being you never even converse with, You've never had a conversation, but you feel the love and you feel cared for, and it's just a really magical relationship, humans and animals. It's really profound. Oh, Princess. Hi, TJ, Zach. They're just the best. And sucks when they have to go. And, for me, I was holding on to Kukla for a little bit there because I didn't want to say goodbye. And it's so hard doing that when you have to make the decision too. And then she let me know. She let me know that it was her time. She was like, I'm ready. And I was like, I'm not. But it was wonderful to be there with her to the end and to be in the room with her and tell her all the wonderful things about her and how much I love her. And I played audio messages from my mom and Melanie to her so she could hear how loved she was. And yeah, I mean, that moment honestly taught me a lot. It taught me so much. And what I left from that, or what I left with from that, was love is all that really matters. At the end of the day, it's just the best feeling on earth. It just is. And I left with still so much love for Kukla, and I still feel her love right now. And yeah. So anyways, I'm feeling a little bit emotional. And I'm sending so much love to all of your angel babies that, have left us and are now looking out for us from above, or at least that's what I want to believe. I don't want to believe she's permanently gone. But anyways, okay. So how is everyone doing? I'm going to be moving through this today, riding the waves of how I feel. And I'm not going to lie. I felt anger when I watched Paige Christie's video. It definitely made me feel sad. It made me feel misunderstood. It made me feel like I also understood her a little bit. Like I was able to hear her even through the midst of how she was going about it. And I also felt confused. I'm trying to think of all the feelings that I felt watching that video without getting like super upset about it. Because she starts the video in a very, aggressive way where she calls me, a bitch, and she's very angry, it seems like, at me, which I'm not really still understanding the full capacity of that anger, just because I feel like there should be parts of me that were told in this lawsuit, especially that were factual, that deserve to be understood. And, the damage when it comes to this defamation, is Kat Tenbarge, and how Adam McIntyre amplified that defamation and participated in it. And to see her making a video titled, what is it titled again? Not Alexa Nicholas lying on Adam McIntyre and Kat Tenbarge. It's aggravating because I still feel like it's being distracted. The distraction is still there, where I feel like she's not allowing the space though of Kat Tenbarge lying about me and causing a lot of damage. And I kind of want to start the video before we go into the content that my husband and I put together last night of Paige Christie. I just want to start it with, I understand that there were people who were upset about me taking down Drake Bell's video. I'm not even upset about them being upset. I understand that what that probably felt like. I understand. It probably felt very disappointing and confusing and triggering and so many different things. And I just want to start this by saying I absolutely understand that. The one thing, though, is that I would like to add to that is the video that I first did when I found out about Drake Bell being in the documentary, because I didn't know, Drake Bell was going to be in the documentary until last minute. And I had to just kind of process that pretty quickly. And I said, like, I talked about the recycling of harm and trying to grasp that perspective. And I always vocally, even in my tweets, said I support all survivors. I even said that in my comment to Kat Tenbarge when she sent the 18 questions. Supporting survivors, to me, personally, means making sure that we are creating safer avenues, pathways for survivors to feel like they can come forward and be heard and be respected. Okay? Something I also learned, though, is in the last year, I grew. Some things that I have said in the past, when it comes to how I now confront or address these extremely sensitive topics, are a little bit different. One of them being, I used to, go in protest and use my megaphone and say, eat enablers. That was one of my things. It was eat predators and then eat enablers. And I really believed that. I strongly was against, and I still am, enabling harm deeply. Specifically, the systems in place that really enable harm systemically, especially within these institutions like the entertainment industry or the music industry, honestly, any type of industry, where they silence survivors, they throw them away, and then they financially reward, right, the person who is being accused of harm. In the last year, I started, and I said this on Ethan's show, I started to study and get very interested in transformative justice. And I know that Paige Christie recently had to Google that and read what that is, what that entails. And I'm still kind of figuring it out. I'm fairly new to this unlearning and learning and educating myself around these alternative ways of dealing with harm. And it's a bumpy road. And it's, to be honest with you, most of the time, sometimes not really fun. It's not a fun one. It makes you sometimes feel the most uncomfortable you've ever felt and activated. There have been things that I've heard in certain workshops, like what I'm talking about, that I automatically want to go, but, and I want to do the whole thing. And it's real and I feel it deeply. And at the same time, though, I never really thought about enabling recovery or enabling remedies. That was never really a thought of mine. I'm not going to lie. I never thought about how someone could enable somebody recovering. And I'm not saying, for example, that every single person who's kicking it with somebody who has been alleged to abuse somebody, right? I'm not saying that person is enabling recovery or remedies of any kind. But what I'm saying is I never thought of anyone doing that. You know what I mean? I never thought that, yeah, for example, some of these individuals I'm sure have family members, and that's going to tie these people together probably for a lifetime. And I do pray that those people who have to be and maybe choose to be around that person is not enabling more harm, but instead enabling recovery. And again, even when I say this, it's so sticky, it makes me feel uncomfortable. But there have been so many profound, incredible people in these spaces who have worked endlessly on trying to bring recovery into these spaces. And for me, at first, I didn't necessarily love that idea because I thought to myself, well, if this person, like my abuser, for example, like Milos, right? He hasn't said he was sorry to me. There's really not been much accountability when it comes to him and the list goes on, right? And then I started to realize, though, I kind of wish and I kind of hope, though, that someone around him is not letting him do any more harm. And that just seems like such a silly thing to wish. And it's probably not true. I have to face that. I I'm not going to bet all my money on the fact that somebody around him is really holding him accountable and wanting to see this person not do harm anymore. But I could hope for it. And the more I kind of got into that hoping of that, I just started to think about how community is showing up in these really sensitive topics and how we're engaging with one another about these really sensitive topics. And are we trying to find remedies and recoveries and making sure obviously we're centering the victim, the person who is saying that they were harmed, you know, and all these questions are still, you know, they're still happening for me. I haven't gotten them all answered, but I started to feel a little bit better starting to ask those questions. And I had to reflect on, I just had to reflect on my past. I had to reflect on how I was engaging in these spaces and how even I was kind of treating some people as disposable. And I'm not even talking about the people who are being accused of harm. I'm talking about the people around them, right? And just, my anger had to go somewhere. I mean, as a survivor, your anger just has to go somewhere. It's devastating being a survivor. And when you see that person, like, you know, people hanging around that person, it's just like the most you're just so, it makes you really angry and hurt. And you feel like you're not seen and you feel like no one's listening to you. And what happened to you has no care at all. People don't care what happened to you. And it's just the worst feeling ever. And so when people saw the footage with Drake Bell and how I explained to Ethan, you know, going and seeing him and telling him, like, you know what? That was brave of you. I'm glad you did that. I'm sorry what happened to you. All of that wasn't condoning any harm. It was just realizing that person has been harmed and wanting to make sure this doesn't happen again, that this doesn't recycle. And I don't think I'm any hero. I've really learned that the last few years. I've tried so many different ways of helping, and you try and you fail and you try and you fail and you mess up here and it's hard. It's hard being in these spaces. It's so sensitive and activating and tough. It's just not easy to be in these spaces. And so I just want to start the video saying I understand. And I'm sorry if you looked at that video and you felt like I was an enabler of harm, that I was looking away, that I wasn't wanting justice for somebody. And I'm sorry that it took me so long to say that. I just want to add that I wasn't enabling harm. I was really wanting it to end. And I know that's a really hard, if I was talking to myself a year ago, I'd be like, like, okay, anyways, you know, like my typical thing, I'd be like, let's really dissect that, you know, and I know, but it's true. And my intention with that was way different than my impact. And I'm sorry for that impact. My intention, though, was different. And I truly am deeply sorry if I triggered you. And I didn't know that that footage obviously was going to come out. It wasn't something that I was trying to show. But I am kind of grateful that it did, because it taught me a lot. It taught me a little bit more empathy for complexity, and to not jump to a conclusion just because of what we're seeing, which is something I did a lot. I did a lot of that with e-predators. And I know now it's like, you're not what you used to be, and you know, you disappointed us, and all these different things. I'm not who I used to be. I'm sorry. I changed a little bit. Not fully. Not fully, but I changed a little bit. And I learned a lot. And I'm in a bunch of different spaces now. I started reading a lot of different books. You know, even this one. I don't know if any... As I do that, my cola condensation just goes flying in the air. But I started reading different books. And they helped me a lot. And maybe they're not for you. This was a great one, Beyond Survival. It's really, really incredible. But I just started to get really interested in conflict resolution and transformative conflict, and these things that I didn't think were available. And when I first heard about them, I really honestly thought it was shit. I was like, this looks like you want me to ignore this, ignore that. And I realized I didn't know shit about it. I was just looking at it face value and being very activated by it, and wanting to turn away from it because it made me uncomfortable. And once I started taking some time to learn about it, I changed a little bit, and that's okay. There's going to be some people that don't want to come along, you know, on that journey. And I don't blame you. I understand. Because I was you, you know what I mean? A year ago. And I would look at me just like you. And I can understand you from my own perspective. And I don't blame your criticism. And I understand your criticism. I really do. And that's not what I'm upset about, right? When it comes to the Cat 10 barge and Adam McIntyre thing, that's not what I'm upset about. I'm upset about misinformation. I'm not upset with anybody being upset with me about how I handled what I handled. Everyone's going to have a different perspective of that. And I have to honor that. There's nothing I can do about that. And that makes you you and how you see the world. And I'm not trying to dominate that. I'm not. The harm was the misinformation and how that added to something so sensitive and what it made it look like, right? And no one deserves having misinformation put out about them. And I truly don't care who it is. I really am against misinformation, because when it happened to me, it really was not a good thing. And I saw how it impacted my life deeply. So when Paige, maybe you're watching, I'm not going to call you a bitch, even though last night I was angry because you hurt my feelings. And I wish we could understand one another more. But When you said that, like, oh, Alexa, you know, she was already done when it came to the Drake Bell thing. No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't. I still had my platform, and I still had some time and space to talk about these things. But I removed myself when Kat Tenbarge was communicating with my stalker. And not just communicating, telling my stalker what I had told her about his behavior. And I know what the first thing you're going to say is, well, why should I care about you when you did that? When you went in and went behind stage with Drake Bell? Why should I care about you? I'm not needing you to care necessarily about me. I'm needing you to understand. Just understand what that did. We don't have to always go, well, why don't you care about that? Just understanding. Just like I understand your perspective. And I have my own opinions about what I feel Kat did there, right? I'm going to have my own perspective, and you're going to have your own perspective. But it's about just understanding, obviously, what that did. Because I can understand the other side too. I can understand. And then, though, when I went to go address the 18 questions and talk about Drake Bell and talk about these different things, that's when Kat decided to spread this really harmful misinformation about me that Adam amplified. And what he did there was say I doxed a victim when, hey, I have my own opinion about your thumbnail with the victim on it. I know about reverse image and all of this technology. I actually, a lot of the time when I was doing e-predators, and this is a swear promise, I would always tell my husband, like, let's not put the victim on there, because let's put these people on the blast, right? You know, who are the ones who are being accused of doing harm. And I wanted to really always kind of avoid, because I know what it can look like too. It looks like you're exploiting the victim. And I'm not even necessarily saying you are, but it makes me uncomfortable. You know, when I saw it, I was like, why is the victim next to another, and also a convicted, you know, PDF file, you know, over there too? You know, just, it felt a little insensitive. And that's my own personal opinion. I have my own personal opinion of that. And and reverse image is a really real thing. And I don't know. That's my own thing. But when Adam was saying that I doxed the victim and that I was putting private sealed information of this victim, right, on the internet, and that they weren't redacted at all. Again, I have to stress to you, they were redacted. And Kat did have them. They were redacted. You know what that created? It created the most intense forms of harassment and hate that I've ever seen. It wasn't just the criticism. That was the Drake Bell criticism. I could handle that. This was a new thing. And it was damaging. And it's not, they're connected, but two different things I'm talking about. I'm not sitting here being like, woe is me. You know, I went to this concert and now why you all are so upset? I'm not. But where I really am talking to you from is the place where the misinformation spread, that I did something extremely hurtful and harmful to a victim. Okay? And that's that. That's that. And I wanted to just kind of tell you that. And hopefully you can understand how they're both connected, but they're two different things. And I was not done. Just like I'm not done now. People aren't just done when you think they're done, and people aren't just these disposable people. You're done. And you said you hope the movement, whatever, like I think you said burn to the ground or whatever. From the ashes, it will rise. No, I'm kidding. But that's not everybody, not anyone is disposable. And I did not feel ruined then. I felt more like scared and having to process how I'm going to communicate this to the audience, people that were part of ePredators, and to the world, honestly. Then when this thing happened in September, that was not I was beyond scared. And I felt like nobody was listening to me. Nobody was hearing me or believing me. And so whatever, we can go around this forever, but I do want to differentiate those two experiences. And I'm not sitting here at all needing you to like me or not. It's not, and I do understand your criticisms. I understand them. And again, I am deeply sorry if it left you feeling disappointed and confused and maybe mad. I'm sorry for my impact. Just my intentions were different than that. And I truly hope that one day you could understand that. Just like I'm trying to understand you right now. And it's hard. Yeah. Okay, that's how I want to start this. And now we're going to go into this other, but you know what's so interesting? So now I need to shake it up. I'm having a little bit of like definitely somatic feelings. Okay. Now though, Paige Christie, I think you said something actually very profound. And when I found it, I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this. And I don't honestly blame you at all for this. But I do want to bring this to everyone's attention because it's kind of what we're talking about. What led up to this wild ride of Drake Bell and Quiet on Set and this and that and this chaos was leading up to that. I sadly, and in these spaces, this will happen, I had to deal with some harmful, abusive, honestly, behavior from people within the survivor community. And that was really hard. That was not easy. And also, unfortunately, I did meet some people along the way that I realized weren't telling me the truth about some things. Like literally, okay? And this happens in these spaces. It will happen. But I wasn't ready for it. And it was really heartbreaking for me. And it triggered me. And it definitely made me feel a little bit, it really changed me. The way that I even started to show up in the survivor communities kind of altered a little bit. Where I was like, I got to be a little bit more distant. I have to kind of make sure I'm, reading things a little bit more. And I'm not just trusting certain things. Because as survivors, we do want to, the first instant thing is, I believe you. And listen, when some survivor comes forward, I really do, not only do I want to say, I believe you, but I think more importantly, I believe in you. I believe in you. And I want you to go get justice. Like, that's like really the energy for me. Like, pave the way, like, let's go, for that survivor to go and get their justice. And at the same time, we also have to be really responsible about how quickly we're jumping to certain conclusions in the community, in the space, so that we're not putting the survivor in danger in any type of way, in the sense of like how we're handling the conversation around them. And I just learned a lot. And then I got, my community unfortunately got scammed. You know, I don't know if anyone remembers this here, but this actually happened. I got literally scammed. Well, I didn't even, the community did. And it was heartbreaking to like go through that. And it was, you know, anyways, it was really difficult. And then I had these different individuals who I mentioned in the lawsuit, right? And these people I explained on Ethan's show, just really quickly. These people, when I started ePredators, there were people circulating and really wanting to participate in this, which was awesome. Fast forward, though, I did have to experience these people straight up, though, and I have to say this honestly, lying and making false allegations against me, in the sense of that I was like harming, you know, survivors, and that I was all of these different things that were factually, like literally provably. And I really sent most of it to Kat. She has it. Not true. And when I experienced that, the first thing that clicked in my mind was, but there's more than one. There's more than one person saying a different type of lie. That's not true. And it really messed with me, man. I'm not gonna lie, because I'm the first person to go like, it's not a conspiracy. Believe if there's more than one, we got to really look into this, which totally makes sense for sure. But it messed with me in the sense where, what if there's more than one though that aren't necessarily telling truthful things? You know what I mean, though? Because it happened to me. So when it happens to you as a survivor, it's alarming. I didn't want that to be true. I do not like knowing that even happened. It really, really deeply messed with me. And I'm honestly still processing it, to be quite honest with you. I haven't landed on my feet yet with that. I really haven't. I'm still kind of like, I haven't landed yet. But I'm trying to be honest with you, Paige, and explain to you this journey of what I've kind of been on. And so when I got to here, I was already kind of a different person. Had a little bit more, maybe a little bit more bias about certain things, a little bit not as trusting, and a little bit more hyper vigilant, and maybe even a little bit of like the paranoia, of like, I don't want that to happen again. And so I was anyways, you spoke about this, about false allegations. And and it was in regards to something with Ethan, but we're not talking about that right in this moment in time, okay? We're talking about, though, what you did say. And I think what you said here was very interesting. And I do want to play it for everyone. So 1 second here. Let's watch this. Let's see if you guys can see this. Okay. Now this is obviously Paige Christie, and she is talking about the harm that can be done when it comes to false allegations. Hopefully everyone can see this.
Accusations of serious criminality, especially those of alleged sexual wrongdoing, are often proven convictions by the court of public opinion because the stigma is so severe, but also because definitively proving innocence in an alleged sexual assault case is often impossible. It seems as
I don't know if anyone heard what she just said, but she said that it could be impossible to prove that you're innocent. This is Paige Christie's own words.
For those wrongfully accused, the effects can be devastating, even when allegations don't lead to any criminal sanctions or convictions.
So she's talking about here, right? Like the idea of how Twitter, for example, or these social media platforms, somebody can say an allegation and it can travel far and wide and it could impact someone's life. And what if that person, right, wasn't somebody who did that harm? This is what she's talking about.
Some allegations don't go beyond an informal complaint, but they can still affect somebody's employment status or even their standing within the community. Significant damage can be done to alleged perpetrators in circumstances when there have been no finding of guilt.
So she's saying here, if there's no evidence, right? We're hearing what she's saying. We're understanding. And I'm creating the space. I want her to speak her mind on this.
In recent years, we have witnessed a cultural shift towards believing allegations of abuse. And a general consensus is now in favor of believing somebody who presents themselves as a victim.
Okay, this is one thing I must say, though. And this is no shade, but I could never say this a year ago. Like, when I saw you saying this, I was like, oh my God, I couldn't even say this a year ago. I don't even know how she's saying it so calmly, because it makes me so deeply uncomfortable, because obviously e-predators, you know, a year ago, I would see an allegation online, obviously, and I wasn't necessarily having this type of conversation that Paige Christie is bringing up in this. And it's kind of wild to see her. And again, listen, we know, here's another thing, Paige, that I'm not going to assume this, but maybe you are going to think this, is that, well, Drake Bell, you know, had these pled guilty to these things, right? The two charges there. And I know that you said, well, then maybe that does mean that he did all the rest. But listen to your own words here, because you're talking about what's actually transpired in the court of law or when it comes to police, right? You're talking about something very similar here. And I find it kind of interesting.
This has created a catch-22 situation wherein being alert to the needs of those who claim to be victims can adversely have the effect of overlooking those who are victims of wrongful allegations.
Woo! Is anyone feeling uncomfortable? Because I think it's actually okay to, this still makes me uncomfortable as a survivor. You're like, oh, false allegations, like, no. And what? And then feeling bad for the person who is being accused. Right? Here's a tough, sticky conversation she's actually bringing to the table. And I actually understand where she is coming from, but I find it interesting that she can't understand me when she seems very wise about this.
But what if in the trial of public opinion, it presented no actual real victims of abuse? What if it was an emotionally charged rumor that was used and presented in a way to make the perpetrator seem more cunning and calculated?
Oh my God, is anyone else feeling uncomfortable? I know it's uncomfortable, and this is the thing here. This is kind of what I went through, though. And I am trying to be so honest. And I know that, like, it's not necessarily going to get the most love. Okay. I know, but I did experience a little bit of this. All right. I can't not say this now. I did experience this. I did experience false allegations also against me. Right. Not SA, but false allegations. And it was a couple people that were connected to one another, but they weren't telling the truth. And it deeply impacted me. It was very harmful. And it did kind of give me a new perspective of going, okay, maybe also I started to go like, oh shit, honestly. Just what do I do with that? I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to think about it. I really don't want to think about it. But then it kept coming in my life a few times. where I experienced it not just against me, but I did experience someone who was being, this is unrelated, okay, to Drake Bell. I did experience somebody who was being falsely accused. And I saw it, you know, whatever. Okay, I'm not going to get into that today. But when you experience something like that, it really, as a survivor, is not only triggering, it is awful. It makes you feel like absolute crap. Like you're worried that you're worried about that affecting the movement, or you're worried about people being compared to that. And it is just not a fun thing. And I had to go through that in my own journey last year. And so I'm just trying to give you a little bit of background of kind of like, you know, maybe what's going on in my own inner world, and maybe how I'm not doing the exact things that you expected from me or you thought I would do. I'm trying to, again, you don't have to agree with me, okay? But I would hope that you could at least try to understand my own life journey and what I'm trying to convey to you. So let's go back to Paige Christie here.
One of the person presenting the sexual misconduct allegations is a self-professed commentator and comedian who likes to present them in a jovial way. Is the impact and destruction to one's life still the same? Well, in the case of Patrice Wilson, he has never ever really been able to recover from the allegations
Okay. So
that Ethan Klein made about him.
So this is in regards to, I was kind of shocked that we're going so far into this, but Patrice Wilson. So anyways, you can go watch that video of Paige Christie's. She kind of goes in, she doesn't kind of, she goes into, you know, Ethan Klein going into this whole situation with a Patrice music video that if maybe you look at it in an adult light, right? Like kind of like Dan Schneider. If you look at an adult light, it looks kind of odd and maybe not the best video for an adult to be participating in. And I'm, again, not condoning how Ethan does the humor or tries to do humor around something so sensitive and just bizarre. Honestly, the music video itself is so bizarre. It's like basically this guy with like love potion and putting it into the fruit punch, to my knowledge, and it's minors and young high schoolers, but he's not a high schooler. It's freaking weird. Anyways, she's defending him in this video and saying, but what Ethan did with his quote unquote joke around that matter created, she is saying, significant harm when it came to Patrice, right? But I find it really interesting that Paige Christie was able to really go into such detail, and not just about Patrice, but she really generalized false allegations and kind of really put her voice into that discussion. And I think what she was saying was not wrong. Definitely not something that I would have been able to do a year ago, but not wrong, right? It does happen. Not as much as the truth, okay? Let's not get it twisted. But of course, in any kind of thing, these things happen. There's human beings involved. Whenever people are involved in anything, it's not going to be as simple as we want it to be. And how do we navigate that? I'm still learning. And I'm just trying to be way more responsible when it comes to these topics than I was a year ago. And I'm really trying to do the work there. Like I really am. Like I got certified in somatic trauma therapy. I'm trauma certified. I'm like, you know, I'm trying. I'm a certified mediator now. I'm actually doing this work. This isn't something that I'm just sitting here and going, transformative this and somatic this. Like I'm really doing the work here, and I'm still learning. And I do not have it perfect yet. I do not know how to fully do all of this, but I'm learning. So anyways, moving on. Paige Christie then goes on a Twitch stream the other day where she starts talking about the lawsuit and starts talking about me being on H3. And yeah, so we'll watch a little bit of that. I'm not even going to jump to anything. I'm just going to watch it and respond to it.
My thing is, what is enough? Adam McIntyre, thank you so much for subscribing.
Right. Adam McIntyre just resubbed to Paige Christie's Twitch. And now I'm going to assume here that Adam McIntyre and Paige Christie are close. I'm going to assume that.
The thing is, what is enough? What is enough? If there were inappropriate messages that meant that he ended up getting a misdemeanor of disseminating material harmful to minors because he lapsed in his own duty of care to this kid that he was able to gain access to from his celebrity.
Okay.
And we're not saying, oh, you know, well, because there's no evidence of the actual sexual assault taking place.
No. That's not that's not what's going on. First of all, it means that the evidence when they did the forensic data and the investigation, and once again, you know how many times the systems fail the survivor? I am concerned about that. That was also one of my thoughts when I was even going through the documents is like, yeah, the system is awful when it comes to survivors. And at the same time, though, there was an investigation, right? This did see its way through here when it came to Cleveland. Not that many survivors. I mean, even myself, when I went to the police about Michael Milosh, they ghosted me. You know, they ghosted me. And even though I gave them all of the evidence of him when I was 16 and 17 and him trying to fly here and sending me NUDES women photographs to show how he wanted to photograph me as a minor, even after showing evidence, right? They cannot do anything. And what I actually got told back was that the SA department of the LAPD lost funding during that time, and they were merging with robbery. And you're like, oh my, you gotta be kidding me. They literally lost the budget for SA and merging with robbery. Like, the system is stacked against survivors. So I'm not for sure. For sure.
Because there's no evidence of the actual nude photographs being sent. Because we don't have evidence for these things, it's very unlikely that it's true. I feel like if you've been charged with these kind of offenses, it's probably likely that the other things are true. It's more likely.
Yeah, but then you also have to put into account, though, and I know this is going to be uncomfortable to talk about, but then you also have to look at, yes, there weren't any, right, that were shown. And on top of that, when I'm going to say this straight up, actually, I'm going to relax a little bit. When he was messaging with this minor, right, which was wrong, when he asked her age, what did he say? Does anyone know what he said? And it's not necessarily a good thing. It's not like what he said was a good thing. But it kind of let us know what was going on there when it came to his either continuation of this or not. It definitely insinuated something. Hurry up. Correct. And that's not the right thing to say. It's not. I don't stand behind the hurry up. That is a little bit like, what the fuck is that? And my personal abuser did not care about my age at all. And he knew my age, for example, since the beginning. Like literally the first day he was talking to me, he knew my age. And when I see there though is him asking what her age is. Too late. Too late. I'll be straight up. That's freaking too late. He has a responsibility there. I'm not ignoring that. I'm able to have these conversations with you. I'm not protecting anybody. Too late. He had a responsibility there. He had a responsibility because, especially like I said on H3, he has so many underage individuals watching Drake and Josh. And so you would want him to be you would want him at the very least to be more responsible if he's having flirtatious conversations with somebody online. I don't think that's a wrong thing to say. Right? I think that's a very fair thing to say. So that's not, I know where you're trying to go with this, but I'm not even disagreeing. I'm just saying I have to, though, acknowledge the evidence. That doesn't make me, I wasn't there, right? I want the survivor of any type of SA to get justice. I want them to. And at the same time, though, this is a very difficult conversation to have when things are not, I can't produce the evidence to something, right? Or things are conflicting, or witnesses are saying something different than what the person is saying, and all these different things. It just gets extremely convoluted. And that's not to say anything, really. I think there's multiple truths there when it comes to the system, when it comes to, of course you can put false allegations in there. You can put that possibility in there, right? There's so many different layers to this. It's very, very complex. It's very, very complex. But I don't know where you're leading to, Paige Christie. I'm just trying to figure out.
Likely to me. Now, if I, as an individual who has a fucking clean sheet, was accused of something like that, right? I can understand people saying, that's very unlikely. Paige has got no rap sheet. She's never been charged with anything. She's never had to go to court. She's never been to jail. She's never experienced anything like that. Of course not. Like, that doesn't make sense.
But I do want to put a little bit of a comparison here, Paige Christie, to what I personally experienced. Hopefully you guys can't hear what's going on out there. Someone's hopefully not cutting down a tree. Oh, it makes me sad. Okay, hold on. Let me close my. I'm back. What I wanted to say there is, if you listen though to your own words that you said about false allegations, and I'm just talking about literally what you personally said. When there isn't any evidence, you basically say, how can someone then prove that they're innocent? I found that was really interesting because I would originally think, how can the survivor prove that something happened to them, right, without evidence? But you added to the conversation, how can the person being alleged as the perpetrator, right? How can that person prove their innocence if there's no evidence? Now it's getting deep. Like I don't even know if I'm wanting that conversation right now, but that is what you said. So when you're talking about this, I'm having just an honest conversation. This doesn't need to lead to anything. This is me trying to ask you a question. So then, did the other people, though, have evidence? When you're saying, I think you're kind of alluding to that Drake Bell has other allegations, right? When it comes to certain other individuals here. To respond to your own words, how would Drake Bell then prove his innocence if there was no evidence there? I mean, just an honest question. You're talking to yourself kind of here. I'm literally in the middle of you talking to yourself about false allegations while you do the counter of the false allegation thing. And I find it really interesting that you are still you. You are still for survivors, but you had this nuance around this topic, and you're still Paige Christie. You know, you're one person.
I think we're jumping to conclusions, right? Understandable. Somebody who gets 2 years probation, who sits down on a stand.
And you know what? To be honest with you, though, Paige, I would have to give a little Survivor, just add like a little addition to what you're saying. Like, I also don't think that if someone never had any allegations before, that is like, oh, that person's innocent. Like, they never did this before. Because my abuser, for example, did not have any past allegations that were public or known of. I didn't know of any past allegations against my abuser. I legit thought I was the only one. Then when I came forward, though, right, I started to learn a lot more about him when it came to that. But I think this is kind of strange. I mean, I'm trying to understand what you're saying, and I want to add to it with, just because somebody hasn't had any allegations before, that doesn't really mean anything in my personal opinion either. It just doesn't.
And says he's sorry that he harmed the victim.
Yes. The ways in which he said he harmed the victim. And he should say sorry. Are we mad about that? I don't know. Are we mad about him saying sorry? I'm just opening the convo here. Is it okay? For example, my abuser never said he was sorry. I don't know how many people in this chat. I'm not putting Drake Bell on some fucking pedestal here. So please don't try to think that. I'm just speaking survivor to survivor here. Like, has anyone out here who has an abuser who never said that they were sorry for harming them? I'm just very curious because mine didn't. Mine never said he was sorry. So I don't know what the anger is around that.
Who the judge says that a lot of inappropriate shit was said today, and that's kind of buck wild. But it's too much to think that maybe a lot of the stuff that was discussed may have been true. The difference is that the young lady just didn't have the evidence to corroborate it.
Correct, though. She didn't have the evidence of the inappropriate, explicit photographs. We have to, I mean, we have to at least say, we have to, like you said, let me regulate myself. How is she going to be able to have her truth known and be believed without evidence? And then how can possibly the other person who's being alleged to have done the harm prove that they're innocent? Well, it looks like it's going to lean a little bit over there because there isn't the evidence of it. But regardless, the internet, for example, thinks what it thinks. You know, that was something that I was grappling with. What I was told on the internet was that there were these photographs. So then when I read there weren't, I had to adjust myself accordingly. It doesn't mean you just throw away the survivor. It doesn't mean you just throw away a victim. But you also have to make sure that you're looking at what's happening and doing proper due diligence so that when you're speaking about it, you're getting at least the facts right about the discovery. Now, you can have your own opinion and those things can happen, but it is your responsibility to not spread any misinformation, though, around it. That's really my concern there.
She saw 5% justice on a 100% case. She saw 5% of that justice, and most people don't even see that.
That is correct. Most people do not even see that. Just like a lot of survivors never get their abuser to say that they're sorry. You know? And that's true. That's true. And also, this is how our justice system works at the end of the day. And I really hope that we spend a lot more of our time and energy trying to fix the system that's stacked against a survivor than fighting with one another. I really do.
Most people will take it to court and not even see that, and the person gets to walk away scot-free. He did enough that they were saying, no, my dude, you're not going to be able to walk away from this because what on earth was that you were sending?
I started to actually understand it. At first,
Yeah, it is. What on earth was he sending? And at the same time, though, at least with the, and it's still terrible. I'm not trying to diminish, you know, the what transpired there. But I do have to add, though, to this is that when he did ask her age, the big issue here is that he did not ask her age, right? That is a huge issue. He should have asked her age. There is a responsibility there. And look what came from that. And so, and though at the same time he asked the age, and then when she said her age, he didn't respond the best, that's for sure. But it was kind of like an eject. It was an eject. So you're looking at it. I'm just saying if we're just looking at it and having a conversation around it. Really uncomfortable conversation.
like it in the beginning of you.
Right. Transformative justice. We are learning things today.
This is when she Googles transformative justice. I'm so glad that I got you to Google this.
What is that? Right. Transformative justice is an alternative approach to addressing harm, violence.
Okay, so this is what transformative justice is, in case you can't hear it that clearly. Transformative justice is an alternative approach to addressing harm, violence, and injustice by focusing on underlying societal structures and conditions rather than solely on punishment or individual blame. So it's really kind of a scope out perspective of how come abuse keeps happening. Why do people become abusive? What can we do about this issue?
And justice by focusing on the underlying societal structures and conditions rather than solely on the punishment or individual blame. It involves creating community-based practices and processes to reduce harm and foster
accountability. Now, transformative justice is not like you don't believe in consequences or, you know, accountability, right? But it's how do we get there? Is punishment working? Is prison working? You know, I'm not a huge fan of colonialism in general, to be quite honest with you. You know, I'm not a fan of that. And I feel like the punishment, the prison system, for example, really stems from that. And is it working? And is it our best way of handling how we engage with people who have committed harm? Is it working? Is it the right way to go about this? And these are great questions to start asking ourselves. It's not a bad question to ask. It's just an uncomfortable one.
And meet the needs of those affected by violence, systemic inequality, particularly communities of 10 targeted by the carceral system.
The carceral system.
Oh God, we're learning today.
The carceral system. Yeah, like, you know, prisons and you know, those wild institutions that are based on punishing, disposing, mistreating, instead of treating and trying to get these people to recover. And there's a lot to say about that, actually. Someone by the name of Loretta Ross. And if no one has read Calling In by Loretta Ross, get the audiobook, download it on Kindle, whatever. It's such an incredible book because Loretta Ross is an incredible activist and she is a survivor. She actually had her kid. Her kid was from my memory, was from the person who essayed her. Loretta Ross is really unbelievable. And when she was working in these spaces, she got reached out by these individuals who were convicted of the R word. And they reached out to her. This is wild, that they wanted help. They wanted to not do that again. They wanted to understand why they did it. And she was really triggered by that and obviously wanted to reject, you know, that whole entire experience. And then she chose to walk through that door and she started teaching them about feminism, what harm what a survivor's life is like after the harm and the impact of that. And she walked through that doorway. And I don't think somebody like Loretta Ross, for example, who is truly incredible, really Google her and look her up. She deserves so much amplification. It's insane. And I want her to be known forever. But, you know, a lot of people will be like, cancel her. Is she going in there to enable more harm? Is she going in there to condone that behavior? No. No. She was enabling, though, recovery and trying to end ABUSC, perpetuation of it, right? It's really, really, really great book, Calling In, and I would definitely read it, Loretta Ross.
Key aspects include emphasizing local agency, prioritizing process over predetermined outcomes, and challenging intersecting power structures.
Correct.
Wow, what the fuck does this mean, bruh?
I'm so glad you're looking into it.
The carceral system refers to a network of institutions, policies, and social structures that involve surveillance, confinement, and punishment, extending beyond the traditional prisons to include schools, child welfare, and
immigration detention.
Immigrant detention. What the
immigration.
fuck has this got to do with anything?
It has to do with everything, Paige Christie. It has to do with my personal journey. What does it have to do with anything? A lot, actually. Transformative justice came from these very conversations that we are having virtually with one another. It has to do with everything that we are talking about and a personal journey of mine that I have been discovering and working through in my own way, right? You take some things, you leave some things behind sometimes when you're learning something new, right? You don't need to take everything. It's kind of weird in the sense of like, you don't want to get too, one way about something necessarily, but that's my journey. And it has a lot to do with how we're treating what you said earlier about false allegations, allegations that are real, how the system is stacked against the survivor. And at the same time, false allegations can happen, and then this can happen, and this can happen, and then lawsuits are really hard to win, even for survivors. It all ties into how we can enable recovery, stop harm, and bring on accountability. That's what it's about, and it has to do with everything.
Coined by Michael blah blah blah, system where punishment is internalized and societal subjects are disciplined, often with disproportionate impacts on communities of color due to historical and ongoing economic and political ties. The carceral system generates significant
Are people just in here for the first time not hearing Paige Christie's own words? Miko, maybe we can put a link in, or someone could put a link in the comment section for people to watch that video where she talks about false allegations.
Through prison labor, construction, and services, leading to mass incarceration and further marginalization. Okay, so Alexa is live on YouTube now. Her title is ridiculous. Oh God, we're never gonna get through this video. YouTube.
I love that she breezes right past that whole incredible thing.
Alexa Nicholas. She live? Oh, it's Eat Predators, isn't it?
All right. Did she get there?
Eat Predators. Adam McIntyre drinking with Kat Tenbarge in a hotel room.
Correct. So does anyone remember her new video? Oh God, I need to put a fan on. Does anyone remember her new video where she talks about this and then completely, I mean, to my knowledge, doesn't she avoid the fact that Kat Tenbarge is in a hotel room with Adam McIntyre? And now let's remember that Adam McIntyre recently responded to this, and so I want to make sure that I acknowledge his response, which was that he got this out. So, but remember, the person that he was saying, right, who gave him, his ID to get into the rally was after this hotel incident. This was in the morning of that day. And Adam McIntyre now says, after saying never Kat Tenbarge, he now says that they gave him the alcohol without checking his ID. So now we have to take his word. Here's another no evidence situation. We're going to have to, you know, take Adam's word for this, even though regardless, Kat Tenbarge is over 21. I'm pretty positive in this video, and watching this go down doesn't really change a lot of the circumstance there. But he says that they gave him the alcohol without an ID. And in her newest video, that doesn't really land with Paige Christie, to my knowledge. I don't think she really lands on that. I think she still thinks that he had the fake ID before the hotel incident. So I do want to clarify with you, Paige, that Adam has responded to that. So hot in here. Guys, how is it still so hot? And it's almost October. I'm like, it's so hot. Okay. All right.
Okay. I want to hear what she says about Adam McIntyre. Let's get through this fucking video.
I do. I talk all about Adam McIntyre in that live.
Okay, so if what Kat Tenbarge posted about going to the court and finding out that there weren't public available.
Listen, Paige Christie, I need to tell you this one last time. I know that's not the words, but it's like literally one last time. Yes, Kat Tenbarge had the documents, knew that they were public, said that they were sealed, said that they were not redacted at all when they were redacted, and she has them. And I know what you're about to say here, and I just want to say, even before we get into it, yes, correct. She knew they were public. Cleveland police records, okay, knew they were public, said they were sealed, and then said they were not redacted at all. At all.
And opening the files and seeing that they were also unredacted. If she can actually tangibly prove that she has the documents that were sent in this, I think it was like a WeTransfer.
It was a Google Drive. First, it was going to be a WeTransfer, but then we put it in a Google Drive because it was too much even for the WeTransfer, you guys. That's how much evidence I gave over to Kat Tenbarge in regards to e-predators, that literally WeTransfer couldn't even handle it. So we had to put it on a Google Drive. So, yeah.
Drive that was sent in this WeTransfer drive, then this is ipso facto, it's done. But again, it's one word versus the other. And at this point,
another thing that I'm seeing people talk about, federal court, New York, there is no anti-slap. So people that are circulating this is just going to be a slap lawsuit. That is not true either. I saw Ophie Dokie say that. No, this is we got to do our due diligence and start Googling, guys.
I don't know who's right. So I'm not even going to sit here and pretend that like one person's correct, one person's not correct. The only thing I will say is that I don't think it was a wild assumption for people to have made that she got these documents in nefarious ways, considering her closeness to Drake.
So what a wonderful way to start that conversation. So how it looked, right? How it looked to you wasn't what it actually was. That's a good learning moment, I think, for anybody, where we can have an opinion about something online and it looks this way, and the way that the misinformation is building online, and the triggers and the trolls online, and we can look at something and go, you know what, this is looking like this, and I'm making that decision. This is my opinion. And then guess what, though? In this situation, that just was not the truth. Drake Bell did not give me these public documents. Kate Taylor did, and she's a journalist. The irony of this, the irony that it was a journalist gave me these public documents, not Drake Bell. But see how something can look some way? You're like, oh, video, you know, but that doesn't mean it's true. And we need to really start having that as a learning moment for ourselves, where it's like, just because something looks a certain way even doesn't mean it's necessarily true. And we have to be careful about stating anything as a fact, because that could be damaging.
And I think she owed it to her audience to come back and say, hey, This is why my opinion has changed on Drake Bell. These are the information. This is the.
Did she not watch my live when I came back in September to address the 18 questions of Kat Tenbarge, where I literally go into a lot of not fully, because you can't really pressure somebody, Paige, to just do exactly what you want them to do when you want them to do it, obviously. It was in my own time, in my own way, and when I felt safer, and I also had the right words, and I was trying to be very careful with them, and I had a lot on my plate during that time. So, but I did address.
I've been given, but her reputation was done already. She knew that it was bad and wrong. There was no in between. It was either bad or it was wrong. She was either going to turn around and say, well, there wasn't enough evidence, so I'm choosing to believe Drake's rhetoric, or she was going to have.
No, it's not either or. That's what I'm trying to say, Paige. We don't have to go to this either or. We have to just acknowledge, though, the complexities, and everyone's going to have their own opinion about it. Everyone's going to have their own opinion, but we still have to acknowledge the evidence. I mean, we have to. That's, even Kat Tenbarge said that. Like, it'd be like media literacy to not look at public documents and report on them. Like, we have to look at the facts of the case. And we learned that we can't necessarily trust the New York Times. The New York Times said he was a registered SO and then had to retract that. And they had that up for, I think, over a year, right? To my knowledge, they had that up for over a year. And people really believed that. And then that wasn't true. So it is very important for us to look at the documents if we are discussing this, right? Now, if somebody's just walking down someone doesn't want anything to do with this topic and isn't having influence around it, sure, this person doesn't have to read these documents. But if you are discussing it, that's something that I realized. And I read court documents all the time on e-predators, even a year ago. It is really important, even for the survivor, especially when it comes to these complaints, because the media just cherry picks these things and throws them in there and doesn't give the whole picture. And sometimes the whole picture is a lot worse than what the media is even implying or showing. So even for the survivor's sake, I have found it to be really important to read the complaints, to read these documents. And it's not about picking either or like that. It's about having these conversations that are extremely difficult, but necessary if you are showing up in this space. If you're not showing up in the space, then whatever. If you are showing up in the space, then yes. And that even means people online, people that are tweeting. If you are tweeting about something, you might want to be careful about stating anything as a fact unless you know it's completely true, and maybe don't trust something like New York Times. I mean, to be quite honest with you, because I've been let down by New York Times, and it's important for us to make sure we do our due diligence as a community when we're talking about this. I mean, this is fair.
To say that she doesn't believe Drake and throw him under a bus a second time. There was literally no in between, and because she didn't want.
Court documents are not fact-checked. Well, here's the thing. They're privileged, but they're not fact-checked. And that's why you have to look at the exhibits. Like, my complaint has so many exhibits. I don't know if anyone's seen all the exhibits in my complaint. There's a lot of exhibits. Pretty much the whole thing is a lot of exhibits. And the exhibits are really important. Evidence is really important. And that is true. That when you read a court document, for example, you can't jump to that either, because it doesn't mean necessarily it was fact-checked, right? In the sense of, like, it doesn't mean that it's an absolute, right? You want to see the exhibits. That's why also the discovery process of a lawsuit is really important, because someone can state an allegation, but then in the discovery process, that's not true. Kat Tenbarge, I'm sure, knows a lot about this.
Ruin the relationship, the alleged relationship it is that she had ongoing with Drake at that moment in time. It's my personal perspective that she decided not to talk about it and left everybody, holding. It wasn't just my own encounter with Drake Bell that made me not feel comfortable to talk about it. It was a lot of things. It was my own survivorhood. My own self made it hard to talk about, okay? My community, it made it harder to talk about.
So many things made it harder to talk about. I was also being harassed during that time by exposing Rich. I also have a stalker who is restrained. There are so many layers of this. It wasn't just that. And I think this is very binary thinking, Paige Christie, that you're going by a lot of the time is very binary. It's this or it's that, or it's this or it's that. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Sometimes things are extremely complex and there's a lot of layers to something and a lot of ands. It's not always either or. There's an and, an addition to something, not necessarily to dominate the other aspect of something, but to add to it. And that's what makes these conversations extremely difficult. And that's just a truth right there.
Shit up in the air, because I find it quite interesting that the Twitter message that we get several months later of her saying Kat lied to everybody, these is the documents, here is where you can find them and read them for yourself, was not something that she could have easily provided long ago. But
listen, does everyone remember? First of all, I did provide the fact that these are public Cleveland police records to Kat Tenbarge. And look what she said. A journalist, quote unquote, said, right? But remember how everyone got super angry at me for proving it? One of Kat's last comments in the chat was prove it. It's like, and then I got so much, I mean, even from Adam McIntyre, in the sense of she put private info of the victim on the internet. First of all, it is public documents. Public documents. And then here's Paige Christie like, prove it. Everyone's prove it until you prove it. And then you're the bad guy for proving it. Right? And that's what it really felt like for me. I felt like I even got more intensity. You remember that, Keon? Yeah. Like it got worse. But she's like, oh, you should have just... I did to the person that was asking me about it, by the way. I did let her know what it was, Cleveland police records. She didn't seem too interested.
People had numerous different questions. I question why it took her so long to give people access to these redacted documents. So if Kat's able to prove
that's okay.
that, then sealed, done. Or unsealed, shall I say? but then it's done. But if she isn't able to prove that, then we're in a very tricky situation.
And let me tell you something, Paige Christie. Kat Tenbarge lied. we got the evidence here. And still you make a video that I lied on them. When by the way, if everyone saw my video, I think that was the live actually that she wasn't hopping in on. I literally tell Adam McIntyre that was an honest mistake. And then we find this hotel room incident, right? And then he tells us he wasn't 16, he was 18, right? What is this actually about? Seems still to be distracting and avoiding what this is actually about.
And I hope she's got the documents. But again, if the documents are unsealed, well, how likely is it that
she has the documents, Paige? She has them. I have proof of her having them. Proof of her having them. And yeah, no, they were redacted. Sorry to get like a little feisty there, but like I really want this to land. They were redacted. They were public. She has them. She had them. It's all real. It's happening right now.
Would have kept it. I don't know.
This one, as I understand it.
I will say that reading this this letter, the legal document, the 42-page legal document, and going through the questions were pointed. I will say that. But I feel like it was more of a no-nonsense situation. This is just my take-home. It was...
Again, do you mention the fact, I think she does a little bit later, or she looks at that, or she says something about it, I hope so, where these 18 questions, most of them were coming from a restrained person's filings. Not just pointed, not just aggressive, passive aggressive, whatever. stemming from someplace. And where they were stemming from was extremely alarming and scary.
More of a no-nonsense situation where she's like, did you do this, yes or no? Were you involved in this, yes or no? Like, she wanted to cut through all of the bullshit is what I was getting from it. But I could understand how it was received that way, because it did seem, the way I received it, and I was like, oh God, she weren't playing with you today. She said she wants to get there. That's what I got. But that's not necessarily wrong. That's not wrong. Is it bad journalism? Is it a bad way to get somebody to open up? Probably.
You know what's bad journalism, Paige? Getting told that documents are public, getting sent them, being told they're Cleveland police records, and then going out of your way to say multiple times that they are sealed, that they are not redacted at all, that I'm leaking, private info of the victim, doxing, that I don't know what sealed documents are, you're afraid, alluding that it's a crime, that I'm committing a crime, alluding that I got them from Drake Bell, saying I got them from Drake Bell. That's poor journalism. That's not how a journalist is supposed to behave. And I think we can all agree with that. It would be kind of wild to say that's just normal journalism. Now, personally, I know a lot of journalists. Obviously, I am a public figure. I have dealt with many journalists in my lifetime, many even especially around the Quiet on Set era, and they don't do this. None of them. They don't hop in chats. They don't go after and attack their subject. They allow the subject also to respond fairly. I had every right that night to be transparent with my community about what was circulating online. I had every right to talk about those 18 questions and address them honestly, fairly. And I had a whole entire drive of evidence to back it up. Like literally hundreds. I had every right. How Kat behaved, in my personal opinion, is not good journalism. And then not take any type of accountability or set the record straight. Isn't that also something that a journalist is supposed to do?
But I don't think she did anything wrong, per se.
And you can give me info or not?
Yes. Didn't do anything. As a survivor was crying about the misinformation that was being spread.
Did he really do that? No, I'm missing a chapter. Did he really do that?
Why are you so excited about that? That's an honest question from me to you. Why are you so excited about that? Look how happy. You don't get to gatekeep, Paige Christie, just fairly giving you my opinion here about what survivor you get to treat respectfully and treat with dignity. Like, you literally started your let's literally go to how you talked to me the other day.
Listen here, you dumb raggedy bitch. Misinformation. I don't spread lies. I just put your nonsense up in HD. You're calling it misinformation? I'm calling it direct quotes.
Jesus, you and Adam and these muckers, like the way you engage in disagreement of any kind is, yeah, when you came into my chat, I was pretty upset because you did say in your video that they were sealed documents. You didn't just ask me a question, which I'm going to show today as well. But you say, oh, I just asked her a question. You didn't. You also said they were sealed documents. And I asked you, did you put a disclaimer? And I was upset that there still wasn't a disclaimer, But I don't call survivors, what is it, raggedy bitch? It's really nonsense, Paige Christie, that you, in my personal opinion, we can't ask for people to respect survivors if we pick and choose, right, how we talk about them. Drake Bell's reported survivor You know, I've never doxed her. And I sure as hell didn't put her on a thumbnail. And I also never called her that. You know? And it's like, it really hurt. I don't know why you're calling me that. I don't think I deserve that type of language. And I think it's extremely dehumanizing and pure misogyny, to be honest with you. And I don't think it's a good look. I don't think that's the way, you know, I guess I'm a mom now too. I think about this a lot. But how are we setting an example to youth, to people around us? And that just didn't feel good. That just didn't feel good. Right? I mean, wild actually. But very similar to Adam McIntyre. Look at her laughing.
She's working with pedo troll. Exactly. But did he really do that? Why is everything she's saying so funny? It's because it's bizarre.
It's not bizarre. It's complex. Again, me sitting down with Ethan to have a conversation about misinformation spreading like wildfire online is an important topic that not many people are platforming. Have you even noticed that so many people are kind of silent about this lawsuit? It's because it really is going at something very head on, which is how easy it is now for misinformation to spread in the same way that you were talking about false allegations. And how could you say that? How could you feel any type of feeling for somebody who could possibly be accused of something they didn't do, but then you also say in the same breath all the other things you have said? It's because you're a complex person. It's because you hold many probably truths within you. But what I don't like is the laughing of that. Now, I know when Ethan was doing the whole rat and tire thing, I was laughing. I didn't come up with that. I didn't say that. But I was bullied for so long by this person. Like, it was just a relief of a laugh. And I don't condone it, though. I'm not like, go on and necessarily come up with names about people. It's not really, that doesn't even get the point across, I think, a lot of the time. I think it makes it even more convoluted. But again, I'm a complex person that holds multiple truths. And we need to start realizing that in one another.
On tour, maybe? Yes. Oh, that's diabolical. Oh, Adam, that is diabolical. Why would you do that? Oh, no. Oh, she keeps saying that. I thought she was being facetious. No, this is a thing that actually happened.
Yeah, he actually went on tour and had the whole crowd boo me while I'm crying, they're not sealed documents, telling them I'm not doxing a victim, and crying about the person who I have a restraining order against, and I'm worried about my safety, and Adam McIntyre is dancing in front of it and drinking. And you find it diabolical and laugh at that.
Adam is a survivor. Adam can twerk and laugh at Ethan.
Oh, I thought my computer died. I was like, what? Okay, the misinformation of sealed documents. Here we go.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with being critical and vigilant because, unfortunately, as we've seen with many cases over the past couple of years, there are people out there who are more than willing to lie. But somebody has to give...
Okay, so she says that. So you acknowledge that part. You acknowledge that there are people out there willing to lie.
Me 100% reason not to believe the claims it is that they are making. And there is nothing here that is leading me to believe that I don't believe these claims. So what am I going to do? I'm going to hold it in the air. I'm going to allow it.
But again, remember, Paige Christie, you did not read the public documents. You did not read the witnesses' statements. You did not look at the forensic data. I'm assuming at this time, because you were saying that they were sealed documents, that you did not read them. And so you are basing your opinion, and I'm not saying either or of who to believe here. I'm just saying this fairly. You are coming from your own opinion, from the information that most likely you are reading online and from the victim's testimony that is on YouTube, right? So this is where you're gathering your information, but you had not read the public documents yet. Just want to clarify that.
To create space so that if any other victims of these alleged abuses and attacks come forward, then at least we know there was more than one. And I feel like
I hope we don't find out there's more. It's really, at least we know there was more than one. Like, that's always the saddest thing, is like, that is the worst feeling. You're like, oh my God.
The right thing to do in these kind of situations, as it is such a delicate situation.
Very
so going
delicate.
back to this message,
Here we
she
go.
posted today, Alexa Nicholas exposes Drake Bell, and here is the link from that video. This is posted on the 12th of October 2023, and if we click the link, the video is no longer available.
Correct.
So then I responded to this message from 2023 of the deleted video as it pertains to the case. And I said, you know, the internet is forever, right? You can't just privatize a video because the perpetrator of the crime that you rightfully called out in October 2023 is now gaining popularity.
That is not, and she says in her, was it her recent video or Twitch? I can't even remember at this point, where she's like, I'm not saying that she did this for clout, but you were pushing that agenda. You were saying that I was doing this because Drake Bell. No, that is not at all what was happening. I wasn't taking down the video because of Drake Bell's notoriety of what was happening during that time. I'm sorry to tell you this, but we were both in the same documentary, and regardless of any of that, my platform, for example, was already getting so many more views because of me being part of the documentary and me talking about the documentary. But you were alluding to the fact that I was ignoring a victim because of somebody's notoriety. That is unfounded. That's not true. It's not true.
Due to a documentary. So it's eat predators unless they can help you increase your own visibility. Because at that time, people started pointing
see, there she says it. Paige, you said that you don't believe that I was doing it for clout, but you said it right there, that it's boosting my own visibility. No, that is not it at all. That's not true. Read the complaint.
That Alexa had been going through all of Drake Bell's social medias and Instagrams and stuff and liking every photograph, which was a glaringly different response to the response it is that she had when.
And it wasn't every single one, but yes, we were in a documentary together. This individual has come forward about being a survivor of CSA. Very serious. All of us were kind of freaking out over that were part of the documentary. None of us were able to understand how to even process this. It was a very intense time. And now everyone knows what was actually happening if you read the complaint.
She heard the allegations for the first time.
When I was 15, I noticed a huge shift.
He's laughing, looking at her like he has no idea what she's talking about. This is ridiculous. Dude, NBC News is literally... I can't believe the peacock is literally in this video. Not even alleged here. Drake Bell victim. Victim, Drake Bell, gives emotional court statement. Emotional. This is horrific to hear a child talking like this. It is horrific to hear a child talking like this. That this happened to her. And you're literally smirking, acting like you have no idea what she's talking about. Dude, shame on you, man. Alleged, whatever. This is my opinion. Like, and see, like, this is like, it's kind of hard to like rewatch like myself back in the day, because I think a lot of when you're dealing with other survivors' stories, it right away puts you almost feel like it's happening to you. And like, there's a blurring of this survivor and me kind of. And you're like feeling so, you can just tell also how triggered I am. And like, you know, it's just very different than a little bit than who I am today. Shame on you, dude. Emotional court statement. And the only person who's not fucking emotional is the person who pleaded guilty. I'm going to say it one more time with the entire screen for... And here I am again, by the way, guys, where I was legit... I had no idea about him asking about... I don't think so. I'm pretty positive. Had no knowledge of like him asking her age, him not talking to her. These different things were not And I think it's important to know that, just because it will also help you be able to like understand how to explain this type of situation, even in a broader way, like in a larger scope about the system, etc.
For Drake
This
Bell.
is very
Emotional statement. Court statement. And the only person who's not emotional is the person who pleaded guilty.
pled guilty to what? Either way.
Instead, that person is smirking. Smirking.
Now, I'm not saying that people's opinions can't change. Everybody's opinions is subject to change, but especially
Correct.
when we're dealing with something such as CSA, I feel like it's important for you to at least speak to your audience about it, especially if that is exactly what you have built your platform off.
Absolutely. And
the
I wanted
platform that
to.
you
And I
have.
wanted to, and I did a little bit. Like, I did kind of address why the Drake Bell video got taken down, that I felt I was getting harassed by exposing Rich. I talked about this in a video, what was it? In April of last year, like before that. And also I know I also needed my own time around this while I was navigating that kind of exposing Rich and that momentum of that individual, and how awful, honestly, that felt, and what that it was an awful feeling. I didn't yet know how to fully address it, and then I wanted to address it when it came to the public documents. It was really important for me to have this type of discussion, like I've had before looking at documents. I wanted to have it, and then exposing Rich told me I could not. I did not have approval from the victim to address these public documents. And it just, there's only so much a human being, right, in certain circumstances can handle, and each person's going to handle that circumstance differently. And I needed more time.
Off talking about predators. Eat Predators as a collective is literally there for exactly that, for the support of these victims. So it makes me question, where is this victim's support? Do they hold space with you?
I literally said I support all survivors. I said it even in my tweet where I said I was reading the documents. I said I support all survivors. I didn't want to go into all of the details of everything at that moment, but I was saying I supported all survivors. Just that these public documents were very heavy, and there were things to it that I did not know and that I needed to process, and how I was going to even discuss it. It's just so
anymore. Now, I will say a couple of days ago, Alexa did subsequently respond, because a lot of people were saying, why did you delete the video?
So here,
this
I
is really
respond.
weird. This is, kind of sus considering. I mean, you can probably see some of the comments that are showing here. This is what she said. She said, for those asking about my private video, I now have every single report and all documents pertaining to the case.
Yep.
I will be going over each piece over the next few weeks and then going to revisit via streaming. I'm choosing to read diligently before I break it all down.
Do you understand? I literally am saying I want to read it diligently. I want to actually take the time to read this so that it can represent, as the best of my capabilities, to be able to talk about this.
These are hundreds of documents from the Cleveland police and court, not from a person. These are witness transcripts and submitted evidences, etc. I need time to read it all. Obviously, I support all survivors. So I responded to that tweet,
I support all
said,
survivors.
the court documents are sealed. That's why the allegations that people
There
are
it
making.
is. So see, and where do you, Paige, I have a question. Just an honest, I've been very transparent here. Who told you they were sealed documents? Where did you hear that they were sealed documents? And why are you saying it so sure that they're sealed documents? I just want to know where you heard that.
That the minor lied about her age and was found to be lying are completely unfounded. The same lies that your audience is purporting.
What was founded, though, was him asking her age,
right? And this is where all the this is why the internet is so bleh. It's such a mess.
Against the victim. And we can say that as fact as he pled guilty to those crimes against minors. So my question is, if you have access to the sealed court documents, do you have consent from the victim to share them? Because we are talking about crimes against minors here.
They're not sealed documents.
I'm also interested in what you have to say about silencing the voice of a victim as you accuse Christie Carlson Romano.
Okay, Paige Christie. What happened with the other Christie Carlson Romano? I was on her show. Do you understand? I had to do the emotional labor of sitting down with her, driving there, getting myself prepared for that, sitting down and talking to Paige Christie, God, the Christies, Christie Carlson Romano, and then she deletes it when her and I had a disagreement about survivors. The disagreement was about survivors, and we're going to get to that because you conflate that as a very similar thing to Drake Bell. Drake Bell is not on my show, okay? With Christie Carlson Romano, he was on her show. I reached out to her because the individuals that were alleging that he abused them reached out to me, right? And reached out to her and were telling me that Christie Carlson Romano was ignoring these messages from them and platforming him. So then when I reached out to Christie to be like, hey, listen, like, you know, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. Can you look into this? And maybe, I don't know, like, let's be a little bit wary of how we're platforming somebody like that, right? On your own show. Drake Bell is not on my show. It is not the same thing. Me wanting Drake Bell to go get an apology from the people that wrote letters defending the PDF file, who in those records admitted to it over the phone, admitted to it, right? Me wanting him to get those apologies is not the same as me getting messages from a bunch of victims here, and I have somebody on my show and I'm ignoring it. You can't conflate, you can't make those the same thing. You can have your own opinion about what me wanting those apologies for him and, you know, whatever, sure. But you can't say those are the same thing. And then in that interview, I saw that in your Twitch that you say, oh, I don't really remember, you didn't listen to Christie Carlson Romano and what's his name, Corey Feldman. You didn't listen to that. Well, because it got taken down, by the way. Christie ended up taking it down because you know what was in that interview that I end up playing in my video? Is that she basically states that like the bunnies that came forward about Hugh Hefner in that documentary, they were liars. And she like laughs it off like, oh, haha, I always thought he was never like that. And Corey's like defending Hugh Hefner and then she's talking about it and laughing. Okay, while she has this person on the show who these victims or these reported victims, right, or these people coming forward about him, right, about, you get it, are messaging her. And then they're messaging me. And she's ignoring everything. That was a very different situation, right? That was very different. I wasn't having Drake Bell on my podcast and ignoring victims. You don't understand the difference? Okay, it's just a different situation. And the deleting of my voice, I sat down. Imagine, please have some empathy and understanding that when you're a survivor and you're having to tell your story and someone's also making money off of that, okay? I'm not shaming Christie Carlson Romano for that, but you have to understand she's the one making money in that dynamic. And I'm the one doing the emotional labor, sharing something very traumatic, obviously, multiple different traumatic stories that have happened to me. And then she just deletes it because I stood up for, I asked her questions about who she was platforming on her podcast. That was very different than me deleting Drake Bell's video. Drake Bell was not on my show and the victim was not on my show. I was taking it down because I wanted to make one that was not being stemmed from just articles. And I also, because of the misinformation around it and how that was making me feel, and on top of that with the Sun thing. So I had reasons to take that down. But I'm not erasing this victim's voice. I'm not. She didn't come on my platform and then I erased her. Her voice forever stands on YouTube. You even put her on your thumbnail from that clip. Right? She's on your thumbnail. Her voice will be heard on YouTube. It wasn't like I'm the only person that's platforming her voice. So it's just not the same thing. You're conflating.
Of doing when she deleted your episode from her podcast, but I'm not holding my breath. I think that you are hoping that enough time will pass that you won't ever have to address it, but don't worry, we will keep reminding you.
You'll keep reminding you. I'm not even trying to avoid it. I just needed some time. Why is everything on the internet like so, it's such a jump to like the most wild conclusions sometimes. It's like, also, why didn't you ever understand like what I'm going through and what's maybe going on with me? And there's also different options there of how you could view me. It doesn't have to be just this like I'm a villain using clout of him to get to this, to get to that. It's a little much.
So I knew that she must have been referring to my Drake Bell video from like a...
So I blurred the victim's face here for a reason. Don't go like I'm trying to erase her. No, I learned a lot about reverse image. And by the way, a lot of you don't even know what my job has been for a year. Like I've also been working, right? And I've learned and helping survivors actually. Anyways, so ridiculous. I learned a lot about reverse imaging, okay? And how that can be used to find a survivor, to track a survivor down, and to possibly harass them. And I know that her image is publicly available on, was it Law and Crime or, that with her testimony. But I just think like using her image on a thumbnail next to her, it's just, to me, it's in poor taste. Like I personally don't like it. And so I'm blurring her there. So please know that's why she is blurred there. I'm just protecting that situation.
And a half ago. So I went to my Drake Bell video, scrubbed through to the part where I speak about her, which was literally like the last 10 minutes of the video or something. Because again, my Drake Bell video was strictly pertaining to Drake Bell's case, and she was just kind of like an annex of that. So in looking for the misinformation, the only thing I could think of, because she directly references a tweet it is that I made, was one where I asked her questions on where she got additional information pertaining to the Drake Bell.
Yes, but you were feeding into the sealed documents, and I'm pretty sure you deleted that tweet. I don't know for sure, but I think you did tweet it or delete it. But I wish that a lot of people ended up saying like, I was wrong that these were not sealed documents, and, just kind of setting the record straight, revising and disclaiming in your caption, just to like let people know, so that when someone's not visiting your video years ahead, that they're thinking that I still have these sealed documents, someone who has no idea what's going on, right? And just hopping in. There's a reason why articles will add things to them as a case progresses, etc. So I was like, can you... And I never saw one. I never saw her doing that.
Case from. I never stated that she did anything illegal. I merely asked a question as to where the additional information came from.
That is illegal. That is illegal to have sealed documents. It's not good. It's not a good look to say that I have sealed documents. It's very intense, actually.
The court documents are sealed. That's why the allegations that people are making that the minor lied about her age and was found to be lying are completely unfounded. So the idea that asking a question is defamatory, just absolutely.
First of all, I also, by the way, Paige, I literally never said you defamed me. You started with like defamed, that I said defamed. No, I didn't. I said you spread misinformation. You spread misinformation. I didn't say you defamed me. Go play it back. It's literally in the beginning of your own video. I don't say it and then you say I did. And that's something that you guys keep constantly... Are you listening to what I'm saying? Spreading misinformation. You're showing it, of the spreading of misinformation. I didn't say you defamed me. Again, with the conflating.
Blew my mind. Because if that's where the bar is for defamation, the bar is in the pits of hell. So if you wanted to see what it is that I actually said about Alexa in this whole situation here, take a look. This is a video from like a year and a half ago. So I responded to that tweet and I said...
Okay, so we got that. We understand. We watched her with this. Then she goes into the Adam McIntyre thing. We've covered that. But hey, Paige, are you watching this?
Showing me up. Oh God. Look
Now remember that person wasn't there. This was before meeting up with that person. Before. Kat would never.
Back of it. Okay, so this outfit is so cute. So we're gonna be going to I think it's the Stanley
Moss Courthouse.
That one. And I can't wait to bring you along with me. I'm currently drinking a vodka Red Bull. The vodka was $65 for a small ass bottle. But you know what? We take our loss.
He says we take our loss. So did Kat pitch in for this alcohol for him? Which is a question.
Take our loss.
One, it's false because Adam McIntyre was not 16 at the time. This is publicly available information that should have been researched and definitely did.
And I can't believe you don't speak the same way about Kat Tenbarge, who is a journalist who literally knew these documents were public. But you talk about it. The bias here is definitely obvious. It's obvious that you guys are friends.
Get done and ultimately just makes them look like they don't really know what they're talking about. And secondly, it's because there is no evidence to corroborate this information, and both parties have vehemently denied Kat ever facilitating Adam to go and get.
Well, she did not include the video of Adam McIntyre drinking in a hotel room with Kat Tenbarge, to my knowledge.
Alcohol whilst he was in LA.
So good. Also, they delivered it to the room in the cutest ever, I don't know if you can see this, in the cutest ever room service thing, and the guy was so sweet.
So we were all under the impression that Kat Tenbarge had given Adam.
So this is us editing in this footage, by the way. This was not, I don't think, was in her video.
Alcohol, that was the word on the street. That was where the rumor mill was.
Furthermore, you, on a bigger platform, have posted inaccurate, completely defamatory statements about me and Kat. Completely. And I can't wait to bring you along with me. I'm currently drinking a vodka Red Bull.
Now, these were only the things it is that Drake allegedly said pertaining to Alexa. These aren't even the things it is that Drake said about the other alleged victims of him. And what made this situation even worse for many people is the whole Christie Romano situation.
Okay, so we already covered this, right? We covered Christy Carlson Romano. I've already stated that what my response is to that, which is literally it's not the same. It's not the same at all. It's really not the same. Oh, and then the Nickelodeon. Okay. Again, yeah, it sucks that people didn't really understand the t-shirt and that it landed in a way that was I am a survivor of Nickelodeon, okay? That shirt was something that I created as a protest sign. It is a protest. I wanted to see people wearing that. Okay, that was something that made me feel my childhood self really seen, and that's also the way that I expressed myself through advocacy work. Where it was the graphic design with my husband. You guys get it, okay? Hopefully, you guys get it. But I got criticism that it wasn't given, for example, to a nonprofit, and you have to understand that when you're doing this type of work, it is extremely draining. Really, really. It's a lot. It's exhausting. It's time consuming. You're not necessarily you're not rolling in dough with it. Okay, I'll tell you that much at all. And it's almost it's not even sustainable at a certain point. And these T-shirts were to show support to a survivor of Nickelodeon, which is me. I am one of those people in that documentary. And it's not like I'm not part of the documentary and I'm removed and trying to make money off of somebody else's trauma there. Right? I'm involved in that. And it's a protest sign and it meant something to me. And I'm sorry that it didn't land well. And if it looked unbecoming, I am sorry. That was not my intention, but I could understand my impact. And I understand. But that was not my intention. Okay. Thank you so much, Astro Girl 37, thank you so much. Oh, the wink face. Thank you so much.
There are countless victims of the enterprise of
this
fucking
is tripping me out.
Nickelodeon.
Why is it like
countless
this?
victims. You aren't the only victim. So you should be the only person who profits. But again, if it doesn't serve Alexa, it doesn't even matter. But take a look at the whole Christie versus Alexa situation where Alexa had the nuance to be able to understand that Corey Feldman, whilst he may have...
Yes, Corey Feldman again was on her show. Drake Bell was not on my show. I did not have a sit-down interview where I was laughing about Hugh Hefner being falsely accused with somebody who is being accused. Like, this is not the same situation. And it was more about me wanting to know why she was ignoring the victims, because the victims were in direct communication. By the way, Drake Bell's, the victim is not in direct, she's not communicating to me, for example. This was a direct communication that Christy Carlson Romano was apparently ignoring. And so we had a dispute about that. We had a conversation about that, a disagreement about that. She ghosted us all. And I found that to be not that wonderful, right? There had to be some type of addressing this, and there wasn't. And that was the difference. And then I was on her show, Drake Bell's victim again, not on my show. I didn't delete her voice. Her voice is not being amplified just from my channel. It's not like I erased something that you can never watch. It's literally on YouTube. You have it on your thumbnail. It's just not the same thing.
Been a victim as a child of Hollywood could also be the perpetrator of a crime.
We got
Where
that.
she called Drake a monster for the things it is that he did. And even if we can't say that he concrete sexually assaulted her because, the results and the tests were inconclusive because it was, her allegations were digital penetration, right? Even if we cannot 100% concrete say that fact,
Okay.
what we can say is that he caught a felony charge in a crime against children. Being a president.
Correct. In the sense of where he pled guilty. He pled guilty to what he pled guilty to. And at the same time, guys, I just want to, I do have to bring some complexity here, because she's trying to say because he did this, it means he absolutely did this. And I just want to add to that, like, for example, let's just come up with this is such a random hypothetical, and please bear with me. It's really hot in here. So let's say I was a really not good person and I went to go and rob a old woman's purse. Okay, here's my hypothetical. Here we go. And I went to go steal it. And as I'm stealing this purse, right? As she lets go, she falls. She slips. Now I run far away. I get arrested. I get taken in, and they say, the woman is saying that you pushed her while you were stealing the bag, right? Now, of course, when you look at that, well, if a person is stealing the bag, okay, I'm sorry, but if the person's stealing the bag, most likely I'm going to believe, yeah, she pushed her too. But what if a witness, for example, was like, listen, I was there, I saw that she stole this bag, but she did not push her, right? So you're like, okay, these two things exist. To just go straight to this, I think it's just a little bit dangerous. And I just think we need to like have a little bit of complexity here, because it doesn't mean for sure this other thing happened. And the rhetoric around that is just a little bit, it's uncomfortable to say, but I don't feel necessarily comfortable with that either. And I feel uncomfortable talking about this, but I also don't feel comfortable with that type of language around people, because there are a lot of people, by the way, who are unfairly like prosecuted in the carceral system and literally are innocent. And police will literally put DRUGS, in their car as they ran a stoplight, and then be like, oh, because you did that, you were, high, and now I'm able to prove it. And it wasn't that, right? So I just think this extremism is always a little bit dangerous, because it could harm, a lot of people that sadly police do take advantage of in America. And so I just think the language around it is a little extreme. Just,
doesn't necessarily mean being sexual. You can be a predator and not be sexual at all. It's about exposing minors to material that is much more harmful than their eyes are supposed to see.
Hopefully we got to this already as we get near the end here. Paige, I agree that he held a lot of responsibility there. And I'm not disagreeing with what he pled guilty to. That's just not the conversation at hand for me personally. I understand. I'm hoping that now after this video, though, we could have understand I'm sweating. This is a very hard conversation to have, but I'm having it. And I'm also really I'm remaining respectful to how you treated me here, and I'm trying to have you understand where I'm coming from. And at the very least, you know, you really don't have to agree with me. You don't have to like me. And I'm not needing that, right? But I just do hope that you can understand how I got here a little bit and understand me a little bit better when I'm being extremely transparent with you and having a very difficult conversation that is just very difficult to have. And yeah, I mean, but next up, next up on E-Predators, it will be
People even freaking respect.
One more thing before we do, though, I do want to say a huge, huge thank you to Paige Christie for this beautiful, beautiful microphone. I would not have been able to.
Interesting that a lot of these YouTube channels that were spreading this misinformation are all connected to Kat. So Kat's connected to YOFFEE, Kat's connected to Paige Christie, Kat's connected to Adam McIntyre, and then now I'm finding out Paige Christie is also connected to Okie Dokie. And I don't know if anyone's seen these videos, but like, let's get real. Let's get real.
You have this kind of equipment upgrade. If not for her kindness, she reached out to me. I am very, very touched. I've been a fan of Paige for about a year now.
For someone who calls it the nuance corner, I have never seen a show that lacked so much nuance. I don't know. Sorry, I need to say that about Okie Dokie. Like, the nuance is nowhere to be seen. Like, the nuance is bizarre. It's like, does it even exist in the show? I just don't see it. It's weird.
Really amazing gift from her and so encouraging to me on this YouTube journey, as well as her taking up for me on Twitter as well, actually, when this was going down with Drake Bell. I just really like Paige. You probably already know that. I used a clip from her in the end of my last video when I was talking about other people who are being empathetic to Drake's victims and centering them in their conversation around this. I think you should definitely go watch her videos if you haven't already, and I will link to a couple in the description below.
But just remember, you guys, when it comes to some of these people, it really seems like they set an example of who and what types of survivors we should respect and which ones we don't have to and we shouldn't. And we can call, you know, raggedy bitch, etc., which we're going to go into YOFFEE very soon this week. And there's a lot of material there. And now I have to go pick up my daughter. So thank you all for, I didn't realize I actually was going overtime here. Thank you all for listening to this, and hopefully we can continue this conversation. And I'm sorry that I have to run so quickly. Hopefully this was a good conversation-ish. Okay. Bye, guys.